Am I wrong to make my husband change his gym? I 38F had a fight with my husband 41M last week when I asked him to change his gym. He says it's not fair to him, but I told him it was important to me, and he agreed. As a week has passed, I am not sure if I did the right thing and want to get neutral opinion on this matter. We have been married for 12 years and have 2 wonderful kids. My husband and I were into fitness when we got married. However, life and kids happened, and we slowly stopped going to gym and gained weight. 2 years ago, my husband just woke up one day and told me he wants to start going to the gym again. He is very disciplined, and not only did he lose all the excess weight, but also started gaining a ton of muscles. As if the gym was not enough, he started doing CrossFit 6 months ago. He goes to CrossFit 4 times a week. He goes there early morning and is generally back before the kids are up. He made a lot of friends there and has generally been in a very happy mood. I won't lie, but he looks amazing, and I can't believe he still gives me butterflies, even after 12 years of marriage. 2 weeks ago, my husband decided to invite all his CrossFit friends for a barbecue at our house as the weather was getting nicer. He had around 9 friends come over, and it was my first time meeting this group of friends. I was mostly in kitchen working on prep while he was grilling outside. Out of his friends group, there were 5 girls and 4 guys, all in amazing shape. 3 of the girls joined me in the kitchen to help me, and we were having a conversation. They were giving me all the hot tea about each of the guests in the backyard. From what I gathered, all the people in the group were between the ages 35 to 40, and all of them were single. One of the guys was married and the other 3 were single. I was asking them about their relationship status and learned that many of the girls in the group had slept with 1 or more guys that were here. The 3 girls who were with me in the kitchen told me that they were all divorced and are not really interested in marriage or long-term relationship anymore. They commented on how guys at CrossFit are hot, and discussing about how each of them was in bed, funny stories, etc. One of the girls asked me how I met my husband. They mostly wanted to know who approached who I chased him, as they were all commenting on how shy my husband is. One of them let it slip that he is completely oblivious when someone flirts with him. I asked it and learned that the 2 girls standing outside had at times tried to be very flirty with him as a fun competition to see when he will notice it. They all said that it was just a prank and complimented me on how awesome and loyal my husband is. At the end of the night, I was talking to my husband and told him about my conversation with the girls. He told me that these people are bonkers, but they are fun to hang out with at the gym. I asked him about if the 2 girls were really flirting with him. He said he did not initially notice, but then it became too obvious, and he thought that if he does not react, then they will stop and move on to the next victim. This all made me feel very uneasy. It may be my insecurities about my own body, but I do not want these girls with amazing bodies flirting with my husband. I know he will never reciprocate, but I just don't think they are a good idea. I talked about this with him, and he me that all he cares about is getting a good workout. We had a fight when I told him to either stop being friends with these horny single people or change the gym. He did not take it well and started resisting it. I eventually told him this is my red line and I do not want him to hang out with girls who are single and ready to pounce on anyone with a hot body. We had a big fight, but eventually he told me he will change the gym at the month end, as it would be super awkward to go to this gym and suddenly stop interacting with people. As I have calmed down, I feel bad to make him do something that he might resent me for. Hence, I wanted an objective opinion. Am I wrong to make my husband stop hanging out with these girls when I know for a fact that my husband will never be disloyal to me? I know it's my insecurities, but I just don't feel comfortable to have him around half-naked beautiful girls who would be ogling him and flirting with him as a game, even after knowing he has a wife and 2 kids. Update. I posted on this forum 2 weeks ago and was dragged by this subreddit for being insecure about my husband going to an CrossFit gym, where he had friends with questionable morals. His friends told me about the hookup culture in the gym, and how my husband is really loyal despite two women constantly hitting on him in the gym. Although I did not agree with many of you, I still decided to swallow my pride and talk to my husband about my behavior and apologize. I had already made him quit the gym, and he was going to quit in a month because that month was already paid for. The night of the post, I talked to him and told him about the post. He immediately read the post and was laughing hysterically at some of the comments. He told me that my question was wrong, and he does not care if I am insecure or not. He told me that my mental peace is more important to him than his new friends, and he is still planning to quit the gym. I think reading about how I felt about what his friends told me put my thoughts into perspective. He said initially felt offended that I was questioning his loyalty and got angry at me. However, he understood my perspective on why I do not want him to be friends with those people. He said he still might hang out with them in social settings, but will not meeting them regularly. He told his friends about his decisions and lied to them that the schedule was not working out for him. Everyone was disappointed and tried to get him to continue. Many of the people guessed that I may be the reason for his sudden schedule conflicts, and the women told him that they only said good things about him to me. One of the married guys who had come to our house was talking to my husband few days ago. He was asking him if I made him quit. My husband said no, but he kept on pressing and said that my husband was stupid to call Melissa one of the girls hitting on him to our house. He said he found my husband's audacity crazy that I invited Melissa to our place. My husband said he knew she was a little flirty with him, but a good buddy. This guy then tells my husband that he does not need to pretend with him, and he knew that my husband was sleeping with her. He told him he has seen how she looks at him and her body language and could tell. My husband called him crazy and seems like Melissa told some of the people in the gym that something was going on between them and he is off limits for others. My husband denied that and asked this guy if he knew that so many people in the group were hooking up. He said that is how CrossFit gyms work, and he also had slept with a few women in the group. He said he was trying to get with Melissa, and that is when she told him that she is currently with my husband. What a jerk! My husband was laughing when telling the story and told me that he has heard that Melissa has spread rumors about him and he is glad to quit the gym. He said he told me about that guy's conversation because he does not want me to hear anything negative about him from someone at the gym who may have heard such rumors too. I don't know why, but my insecurity intuition alarms just started to flash, and I messaged two of the girls on Instagram confidentially and asked them if she had heard such rumors. They both told me that Melissa was my husband's best friend in the gym, and they would always hang out after the gym together and get breakfast, coffee, etc. The gym time was early morning, and they had heard the rumors, but they were completely false. They again told me how nice my husband was and that they are going to miss him. I know my husband is great and I trust him, but I still feel him quitting the gym is the right thing. I also am not sure if I should confront Melissa and tell her to stop lying about my husband. I think I am just going to let it go and enjoy from next month when my husband again joins our old gym where I work out sometimes. On a side note, I was seriously considering messaging that guy's wife about what he told my husband, but decided against it because if she asks how I know, I do not have any proof except his conversation with my husband. Update 2. As I said in the comment section, I did not find any conversations with Melissa on my husband's phone. I asked my husband about it 30 minutes ago, and he got really angry at me for still being on that subject. He said he never talked to Melissa outside their sessions and I need to let it go, since he sacrificed his friends group for me. He never gets angry at me like this and felt like I might have crossed some line with my insecurity. I did not tell him that I contacted his friends behind his back to ask about the rumors about Melissa. I can't shake the feeling that he is not telling me something, or that the women in his gym are lying. I do not want to go fishing into his phone again because I am worried he might find out I am still thinking about that issue. I am really not able to think what to do now. I also might delete this post later and post from a different account as he knows about this account. Update 3. I had posted a month ago regarding me requesting my husband to change his gym, after I learned the few of the women in his gym were flirting with him, and the overall hookup culture in his friends group. I did not like the vibe, and I did not feel the group was fit for a married man to be around. I also posted an update that my husband agreed to quit that CrossFit gym. He learned from one of his friends that his friend Melissa was spreading rumors about them being together. I talked to two of the girls in his gym, and they both told me that although Melissa was my husband's best friend in the gym, they confirmed that the rumors were completely false. I was satisfied and decided to end the chapter. However, after posting the happy update, one user suggested I should try to check the messages between my husband and Melissa to get peace of mind. I checked my husband's phone and did not find any messages between them. That seemed really strange since his friends had told me that they went out for coffee and breakfast often after the gym. My husband got really defensive and told me he never talked to Melissa on messages. He was angry at me because I wanted to go through all his messages. I told him that I do not care if he messaged Melissa, but the thought just passed my mind. He refused to confirm that he ever messaged Melissa and told me he only talked to her during gym hours. I let it go that night. However, the next day, I told him that I did not like how he reacted last night. I told him I am fine with him having female friends and him hanging out with them. But I am not fine him keeping any secrets from me. I asked him if they ever hung out together outside the gym, and he denied that. He was getting angrier and angrier as I asked more questions. I asked him about the breakfasts before coming home and Melissa might also be there. I told him I am not accusing him of anything, but just be truthful to me. He said that yes, he went to that place often to get a coffee after the gym. However, it was always the entire group and never with Melissa alone. He started shouting at me about being insecure and accusing him. I calmly reminded him that I am the mother of his children and will not be talked to in that tone. I told him I am ready to talk to him when he wants to tell me the truth. However, I know he is hiding something from me, and he needs to think long and hard if he wants to continue with the lie or tell me what happened. He kept on denying anything happened between Melissa and him, how he would never think of being unfaithful to me, and how much he loves me. The next few ways were constantly big gestures to show me how much he loves me. It was either taking care of all household chores, constantly getting chocolates or flowers for me, or buying me an over-the-top gift, a diamond bracelet. I stood my ground and could tell it in my gut that something was off. I also held back any physical intimacy until he told me the truth. Finally, last Friday, our kids were at my in-laws' place, and my husband came to me and asked if we can sit in the backyard and talk for a bit. He told me that he will tell me everything and answer all my questions. He asked me to promise to not get angry and hear him out. I was ready to explode, but kept my calm. He told me that he liked the new gym because everyone was very friendly with each other. It's hard to make new friends at our age, and these people were very welcoming, and he felt young again with them. It was fascinating for him to hear them talk about their dating life, hookups, etc. He told himself that as long as he keeps his boundaries with them, he should be fine. Melissa and another girl were giving him a lot of attention. He initially thought they were just being nice and friendly, before realizing they were flirting with him. Melissa always took initiative to talk to him after the gym and started inviting him to get coffee. It was initially not just two of them, but he enjoyed her company. He says he does not know if it was friendship or if he developed a small crush on Melissa, but he liked spending time with her. He said he cannot define what he felt, but it was just fondness towards her. He says that everything was strictly platonic, and he told himself that as long as he kept his distance, he is not doing anything wrong. They did message back and forth on Snap that Melissa taught him how to use, but there was nothing flirty. It was more about how life was going on, Melissa complaining about stuff, etc. He feels guilty that he should have told me, but he felt that he was just being friendly. One day, after the gym, he was waiting for Melissa to come out of the gym so that they can get some coffee. He messaged Melissa to hurry, and he sent him a nude selfie from the locker room. He was shocked, and as soon as Melissa came out, he told her that it was inappropriate and never do it again. He deleted Snap and stopped hanging out with her alone. He realized he had crossed the line, and I would be really mad if he told me about it. Melissa apologized to him and told him that she misread his signals and will never do it again. She messaged him all this on Messages, and he blocked her on that too, as he was scared for me finding out about it. He said he did not have any Snap messages as they disappear automatically after some time. He was begging me not to get angry and that he did not know he crossed the line until that moment. He showed me the phone bill online, where I could see a lot of messages from Melissa followed by him blocking her on that date. He kept on apologizing to me and telling me that he did not mean to do anything wrong and may have stepped into it. He told me that I can punish him, but please not take any drastic steps and think about our kids. I told him how upset I was at him and asked him if he liked Melissa. He said that he was intrigued by her and liked the attention, but did not think about her in any romantic way. He again said that he did not know what happened to him and why he was so stupid. But as soon as he realized things became inappropriate, he immediately pulled back. I thought about it for a while, and we talked about it. Eventually, I decided that what he did was not so bad. I mean, it is okay to have crushes or friends when you are married. I know he is not capable of cheating on me and how much he loves his family. I could either trust him or not, and in this case, I trust him that he is telling the truth. He also is oblivious when women flirt with him and bad at reading their intentions. I decided to give him a pass on this one. However, he made a promise to never lie to me or keep anything from me again. I am just glad he finally decided to come clean and told me about everything. Next story. Mom told Mim 28 wife of 27 not to include her in Mother's Day plans because her church is boycotting Mother's Day to put God first. My wife and I always take our moms to a restaurant on Mother's Day weekend with our 2 kids, and we'll sometimes do something fun afterwards, such as a movie or hanging out in the backyard. However, things have been difficult for my mom since my father passed away some years ago, and it led to a relapse in drinking that she stopped for some time when he was alive, along with some depression too. Things began to get better when one of her friends invited her to church, and she's attended for almost 2 years, which coincided with her dropping alcohol again, along with improvements to her mental health as she got more involved with midweek class church support groups. However, that came with some negative side effects that led to me putting up boundaries with her. My mom wasn't raised religious growing up, but she began to change upon going, which later led to me making this post. One of the earliest things she began doing was criticizing the radio in my car for not being Christian music when driving her to doctor's appointments, something I ignored because driver picks the radio. But when she criticized my wife for not bringing our kids to her church's Sunday school, my wife told me, and I told Mom that while we're happy that church has helped her depression and cutting back on alcohol, we personally disagree with indoctrinating kids, but she didn't like my answer. She said I owed it to her to take them because her husband wasn't saved and wouldn't be in heaven with her, and she didn't want the same for her grandchildren. But when I held firm on my stance, she said I was failing as a parent before we eventually dropped it. But when she criticized my wife's parenting for almost an hour, while at a little league game for our son some months back, a game I wasn't present for that also made her cry. That led to us deciding to set boundaries and taking a break from telling her about sporting events for our kids. Our decision was also based on Mom's newfound willingness to pester my wife via text about who she'd be voting for and why she'd be voting right for the first time, after explaining how she wrongly voted left before going to church. My wife told her nicely that she didn't feel comfortable discussing politics, but Mom ignored her and continued telling her who she should vote for. That finally brings me to Mother's Day. When we set boundaries, we took a break from bringing her to our kids' sporting events, but decided to keep holiday gatherings, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Memorial, July 4th, etc. until she improved. But as of this weekend, Mom called my wife and told her that she didn't want to be included in Mother's Day activities because her church was boycotting Mother's Day after the pastor's wife spoke about how too many women skipped church to go to breakfast when God should always come first no matter the holiday. So for that reason, her church was having a Mother's Day luncheon after service where they wanted mothers to invite their families to church for the holiday. And she wanted us to come with the kids to hear a message about mothers from God. But when my wife said she would talk to me about it, Mom criticized her for always having to ask me and said she needed to grow a spine, which I don't appreciate. She also told her that our kids needed to be in church and that she wouldn't spend other holidays with us unless we came, and I'm quite aggravated with her at the moment. So, in conclusion, here is my question. My wife thinks we should cut her off permanently, but I'm in charge of driving her to doctor's appointments along with getting her medication because she can't drive. So that makes it slightly complicated to cut her off since her health depends on us. She said she doesn't want a nurse or retirement home. But if it weren't for that, I'm right there with her. My wife offered the idea of only me keeping contact for the sole purpose of medication doctors only. But she's also unsure and suggested counseling on the matter, and I'm open to doing that together. But as we're looking into counseling options, I wanted to ask Reddit in case anyone else is a caretaker for a difficult person, and how to navigate when the relationship changes, and I appreciate any and all advice. Edit: 1 hour after making my post, it has already been worth it. Others suggested having my mom be driven to the doctor medications from church friends or an Uber, and I hadn't thought of that before this post. My wife has considered cutting her off in the past and blocking her, but changed her mind every time due to my mom being in a wheelchair and wanting to try and be the bigger person. She is now ready to block her and move on, and the only reason I didn't cut her off sooner was due to her being in a wheelchair until receiving suggestions to tell her to let church friends or an Uber drive her instead of us so we no longer have to tolerate it. Mom was never like this before Dad passed and she started going to church, but she kept harping on how she realized that her husband wouldn't be in heaven after getting saved herself. So she wanted her grandchildren to go to heaven and said we owed it to her to bring them to church. And when I told her we disagree with indoctrinating children, especially with how Christianity can screw with your mind if they ever want to come out in the future, she called me selfish among other things, and she seems to be driven from losing her husband. I think this church has become an unhealthy coping mechanism for her emotional trauma of losing her husband after she refused counseling for her depression when we suggested way back closer to Dad's passing. Here's what crazy though. Her whole personality changed in under 2 years of going to that church and becoming a Christian. She's become fixated on hell and wanting our grandkids to go to church so that her grandkids would go to heaven and not be separated from her like Dad who died unsaved. And she even flipped her political parties too and became very outspoken about it when she used to hardly talk politics and was somewhat reserved. Update. Some people asked what we ended up doing, so I wanted to provide an update for those who helped. But before I do, there's one thing I want to address. Many people asked why I didn't cut my mom out of our lives immediately after she made my wife cry at a baseball game, and I discussed cutting her off when it happened. However, my wife disagreed and said my mom needed support in 2 ways, seeing the kids and driving her shopping and to doctor's prescriptions. We set a boundary of no longer taking her to our kids' games, but my wife also said that her seeing the kids for holidays would help her overcome the loss of her husband, and she believed that losing access to their sporting events would make her change. However, the biggest reason my wife didn't want to cut her off is because she's a Christian too, and she was happy when my mom got saved and believed we should turn the cheek despite the baseball incident because God loved us when we didn't deserve it. So we agreed to just remove her from sporting events to see if she'd change. Personally, I'm not a Christian, but my wife and I think similarly. She despises how many Christians criticize gays and abortion and believes that God loves all people for who they are, and she said she'd be supportive if our kids came out too. That brings me to what happened since my original post. After my mom told my wife to grow a spine and stop bringing everything she suggests to me in unity, my wife reached her breaking point and wanted to officially cut her off. And thanks to helpful comments that told us how to have her prescriptions delivered and suggest having one of her church friends take her to doctors if she's going to continue verbally abusing my wife family, I sat down with her and gave her those options, and she didn't like anything I had to say. She reiterated how I was failing my kids when I told her we wouldn't bring them to church for Mother's Day in exchange for her no longer spending time with our family, as she threatened because family time isn't conditional. And when I asked how she could throw away who she was before Grandpa passed, she reiterated how she regretted accepting Christ before Grandpa passed and that he wasn't in heaven because of it. So when she told me that she didn't want me taking her shopping or to the doctor anymore, she said I wasn't her child anymore because I was preventing her from being around my kids. So she basically disowned me in hopes that I'd cave and bring my kids to church on Mother's Day coming up. And my wife and I have no plans to do so. It's been really hard the past few days since we spoke, but my wife supports our boundary and added one more reason why she hit her breaking point. During a recent argument between my wife and mom, my mom asked her why she wouldn't bring our kids to her church or any church at all when my wife is a Christian. And my wife told her that she hasn't attended any church since 2016 because church in America has changed in many places. The church my wife attended began becoming more political, even to the point of endorsing the 45th president from the pulpit during sermons and occasionally making comments about gay abortion. And she believes that church is supposed to be about love and not hate like too many churches have forgotten since 2016. So for that reason, my wife simply reads her Bible at home and said she'll never enter a church again outside of a funeral because too many churches worship Trump instead of God. And my mom called her a fake Christian despite only being a Christian for 2 years since Grandpa died, compared to my wife who's been a Christian for much longer. We plan to stay firm to our boundary on Mother's Day, but it honestly hurts to have been disowned. So if anyone has any suggestions about coping with that, I'd appreciate it. Although my wife has been supportive, and we're trying to figure out how to tell our kids that Grandma likely won't be a part of our lives anymore, along with the importance of choosing religion or not for themselves, which is why we're making the boundary with Grandma. So if anyone has any suggestions on how to speak to our kids too, we'd appreciate that as well. Next story. I pay you so you my son can move up too. I am a Taekwondo instructor. I teach the youngest 2 age groups mainly. My younger daughter is in our Little Tiger program for 6-9 yo kids. My older daughter in the Phoenix group of 9-14 yo. The school is not commercial. All instructors teach on a voluntary basis. In fact, instructors also pay the same club fee, which is used for insurance and equipment, as all other members. So I pay for myself and my children to teach them myself. As both courses are directly after each other, I can't bring my little daughter home or pick up the older one in between. The master agreed that both my kids can stay for both courses. The older one helps with the little ones, the younger one does the games with the olders, but then usually plays on her iPad when we do more difficult stuff. The mom of a lit boy in the Tigers noticed that my daughter was allowed to stay for the big one's course and asked if her son 6 could finally move up too, as he has already been there for 6 months and is the same age as my daughter. I tried to explain that she wasn't really in the group and was only there so that I could teach, but she didn't accept that. She claims when the old master, who is ill and can't do this class ATM, did the course, she already noticed that my daughter was his favorite. He knows her from birth, so of course he is closer to her than the others, but he loves all the kids. And that she pays me a lot of money and now demands that her son is treated in the same was as my kid who doesn't even pay. I have no clue how she comes to this conclusion. She then demanded to speak to my manager that does not even exist. The master leads the club, but there is no actual boss. But she knows there has to be a manager because she pays us money. I try to explain that she only pays for insurance and equipment, but she does not believe any of it. She actually calls the old master in hospital to complain about me. He tells her to cancel and sign him up for a commercial club nearby €50 month instead of €70 year, at our club where she could talk to managers all day. She complains to the board of the Umbrella Club, not the Taekwondo Club, but the sports club that manages many voluntary sports in our city. They are very confused. She still does not give up. At the next lesson, she threatens to get me fired so that a real male trainer can finally take over again. I tell her that if I don't do the course, no one will do it. Voluntary work is not really popular. At the end of the lessons, she does not show up to pick her son up. I try to call her, but she does ignore me. After 30 minutes, I call the police, telling them what happened. They take him. I tell them his address, and they take him home. I don't know the aftermath. Update. So, we live in a small town, so people know people, and here is what I heard. First of all, I couldn't understand why she was so keen on putting him in a different age group, as kids are way taller, and they just can't really spar or anything if the gap is too big. We don't separate them by belt ranks, just by age, and they learn the same things. But working with the little ones, we do more games and learn and play, while the older ones just learn differently. But there is a difference. We do not take the youngest age group in tournaments. Those tournaments are usually a couple of hours away and a full weekend trip. We stay in youth hostels or sleep in the hosting schools. They are just not old enough to sleep in a foreign place without parents. Well, same problem as with the course. If I drive to a tournament with the older kids, I have to bring my younger daughter. For the last tournament, 3 of my 10 yo girls did a music forms performance to the Oompa Loompa song. And because you can have 4 people on your team, they used my younger daughter as an Oompa Loompa, running around between them. It was super cute, and they won a gold medal. My younger daughter, as she was officially on that team, got a medal as well without having done any actual taekwondo, and that is what triggered Karen Mom. My 6-yo got a gold medal for playing in Oompa Loompa. For the police taking him home aftermath, she was very surprised when he came home. She told them it was just a misunderstanding, that he was enrolled in the second course as well, and that the master must have forgotten to tell me. So there is not much going on there. But the kid had the best day ever, got to ride in a police car, and they even gave him a teddy bear. He was the hero of preschool. What she had actually done was enroll her older daughter, different father, different last name. For trial lessons, we usually offer 3 lessons to see if it's a fit for both sides. There it clicked. I actually know the daughter who was in kindergarten with my older daughter. She then said since they had the slot for her daughter, but her daughter was sick, her son would take the lesson for her. So when she dropped him off today, she told me her daughter is sick and her son will stay for both classes. Absolutely not. I told her if she did not pick him up, I would call the police again. They would probably not be as nice the second time. She actually picked him up, and the daughter did not show up. My older daughter told me that her daughter could never have shown up anyway because she was in volleyball at that time. I just had a long discussion with our master. He has never kicked someone out ever, but he will cancel both contracts for both kids and give them a full refund. He is such a nice guy. He would have given them a second chance after the first time, but trying it a second time was too much. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel James Stories.